Hello, I'm Susan Regan, host of Connecticut Valley Views, and I'm happy today to have as my guest David Kopacz, Eastern Regional Chair for the Constitutional Party. It's a delight to have you here, David, and we're going to cover some very interesting points, I think, for the Constitutional Party. So, David, would I be correct in stating to our viewers that this will be the first of many media announcements about this party, which has been noted that it mirrors citizens' original constitutional rights? Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've been out there for quite a while, but this is, we're seeing a lot more organization beginning to take place, particularly here in the Northeast. So I do expect there to be a lot more of constitutional messaging out there in many forms.
Well, in Connecticut, it's a very special notation I want to make because it was designated as the Constitution State by the General Assembly in 1959. And as early as the 19th century, John Fiske, a popular historian from Connecticut, made the claim that the fundamental orders of 1638 and 1639 represented the first written constitution in history. So I think for Connecticut, that's a special notation that people need to I guess, align with, because we talk about the Constitution, we talk about constitutional rights, and this really is hitting home now because so much authority is being taken away from the taxpayers, particularly in our state, and there is no say-so by those who are paying for all of these, let's say, undeserving in some cases, segments of our society. In any case, so David, please give us the background and the mission statement for the Constitutional Party and its objective to be on the ballot for national and statewide elections going forward and current status of progress.
Well, the thing that I think attracted me to the Constitution Party most, and in my roots, I come from the Republican ranks, and I was very much a reformist. I tried for years, decades even, to drag them back to their conservative small government roots. And, you know, it was during that period that I realized just how corrupt government has become, and due largely to the duopoly system where you just had two options and corrupt either one or both of those, and the people lose, and they don't have that opportunity. I mean, we don't have what was called public servants. These people call themselves rulers and leaders, and they do believe that. They do not think themselves as public servants. So, you know, our party is not about changing every election cycle. You know, when I looked at the platform, I said, man, you know, in most cases, it's a reiteration of the Constitution, which can't be all that bad now, can it? But it didn't change with every election cycle. And it clicked, a light went on. You know, as these parties, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you put out your platform, which is a set of your values, what you stand for. And I submit to you, is it really your values if they're treated as bargaining chips and they change with every election cycle? How do we tweak our platform to dupe just enough people to vote for us to win? And I look at how we were served by both parties, Republican and Democrat, and they've all drifted away from their roots through this, I guess, compromise. We hear the word bipartisan compromise quite a bit. Well, a compromise is when you lose something. You haven't gained anything. And when you have bipartisan compromise, both sides have lost. And this is what they submit to us, and we buy into it. So, you know, our platform is one where when I joined, I said, you know what, when my son wants to get politically active, this platform is going to be the exact same thing when he comes into it. And my grandson, I expect it not to change. It's one of the most attractive things about it is it's underpinned almost entirely by the Constitution, small government, individual rights, and what goes with rights, individual responsibility. This is where the American people have dropped the ball and allowed a nanny state to come up around us, is that all these rights that we're constantly proclaiming are ours and shrieking from the treetops, my right for this, my right for that, is we've failed to recognize our corresponding responsibility. Because rights are asserted and rights are defended when in jeopardy. And we've not done a very good job at defending them. And our public servants, who now call themselves leaders and rulers, I believe have allegiances to things other than our Constitution. So I'm looking forward to a good long time working within the Constitution Party at all levels, right down in the local level in particular. I'm most excited to work within.
Sure. Well, with regard to citizens, they seem to be, when it comes to a critical point, which is one of them, of course, is inflationary issues with regard to groceries and medicine and where can I spend, and people who have fixed incomes. Those at the top with higher salaries are not noticing the change, and they seem to be the ones that are in charge at the moment. Where do you think we took a turn? Could you identify at some point where we used to have constitutional rights, and then owning a gun became something that could be attacked, and then authority taken away from parents with regard to curriculums in schools for their children? Could you identify a point at which we lost the reins with the horse, and the horse is now often out the pasture?
Oh boy!
Is it the politicians? Is it or are they the candidates that have changed it, or is it people have not been paying attention and it's almost too late to catch up?
I think that's a hard one to nail down to a specific date and time. Is that we've had a number of impacts to the Constitution and our form of government here. And it almost always happens during a time of crisis, during a time of emergency. That's when government expands the most rapid and becomes the most despotic, is like we just saw with the whole COVID hysteria, how big and aggressive government got during this declared emergency. So, I could go back to the 30s in the time of the Depression. There was a lot that happened there. When we tried to get ourselves off from the central banks. We're economic slaves. We work for our money rather than our money working for us right now. So there's that economic angle. From a social angle, I would say during the Reconstruction Acts, a whole new form of government was created. And it led to this nanny state where stakeholders, people that speak on our behalf, are the motivators and the ones out there lobbying for policy change and changes in laws. And it's gotten to the point now, and the government's been quite clear about it. You mentioned education and parental rights, under direct attack right now. I don't know how you can look in at your public schools and feel good about sending your children there. They come right out and will tell you that, we got your kids more hours out of the day. They're passing laws in states across the country that's saying that you do not have to have parent consent for things like vaccine to begin transitioning their gender. This is obscene. This is an obscene overreach and downright dangerous. There's a lag phase here. We are not going to see the worst of the repercussions of what we're doing to our young people for several years to come. Because these kids their minds are being messed with now, when they finally do get through adolescence and become adults and have been let down by the adults in their life and want to actually think about having children and a family, you wait there, you're going to see a lot of problems right around the corner, because I think there's going to be a lag period. We're seeing some of the original symptoms. We have children lobbying and protesting their school superintendents because they want a litter box in the bathroom, because they've gone beyond not being boy or girl. They call themselves furries and are demanding and getting litter boxes. Well, we got a problem with our leadership out there. People have taken their hands off the wheel, and those that are activists in what they do are attracted to these local seats and state positions of all kinds, like a moth to a flame. We have got to re-engage as your common, everyday, red-blooded American and take on your share of the burden of liberty and freedom. It is not free. You've got to work for it. Constant vigilance is what we were told. So we
Well,
all have something to do.
I agree with you because I think somewhere along the line, I think COVID, you did say, contributed to perhaps that turning point. Also, I think the distraction of parents with their busy lives, and sometimes it's two generations, it's their parents they have to take care of. And too much time on the computer, too much time on the phones. So they have been distracted by these things. They're not paying attention to their children or what's happening with them. But thank God there is a drift. I won't even say drifting. I think it's pretty much a tidal wave to move away from the curriculums in the school and to do homeschooling. That seems to be a major thing that I think will affect, and maybe parents will wake up and they're working well together. When some have to work some days, then that neighbor or other parents who had children in the same classroom as theirs, they are getting together, and if they have special abilities, maybe they're very good at math, and someone else is good at the creative arts, and someone else is good at science, and someone else is good at history, and they're sharing those talents. So I think there is an awakening here if we can get people off their duffs and away from the computer and outside playing ball with their kids, then they will have a better relationship, and perhaps the children will be able to talk to them instead of talking to the people in school, whether it's a teacher or a nurse or a psychologist or whatever. So I think that's an important point.
You know, I agree. We are currently experiencing the largest homeschool surge that this nation has ever seen. It's a quiet, best kept secret. They don't want those numbers out because then that would provide what we need at the local level to say, wait a minute, school enrollments decreased by 27%. And you're here asking for more money. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust and we're going to decrease your budget by 27%.
Exactly.
That type of pressure is going to start arising because people know 3/4 of your local tax money goes right in to these public schools.
That's correct.
I went and did a search for school districts that are eviscerating their standards. There's no reading, writing, and mathematical standards any longer, and they think this is what's best for Black kids to dumb them down, to lower the standards. It's an intentional. This is going to have a societal effect as we graduate more and more classes of people that can't do math, can't read cursive. So this is widespread across the country.
Bad grammar.
Yeah. So these homeschoolers, they know. I was a homeschool dad. My youngest is 31 years old, so it's been a while since I've done it, but it was the best thing I did. And right now, it's the only option. If you are trapped in the system right now today, the depth of reform that is necessary to get the schools, the government schools back into shape and being public schools, that's going to take a long time. The only thing you can do with a child in the system now is to pull them out and homeschool them, and they will get a superior education. And that's the thing, is that the parents that come to me and say, I've got a job, or I don't feel qualified, maybe you don't even have a GED. It's not about what you actually know. It's how resourceful you are. They don't understand homeschooling. That's why we always encourage those skeptics, come on out to the homeschool summits, come on out and join the homeschool group and just listen. All right. You don't have to pull the plug and cut your tethers right away. Start mingling with your homeschool group. And I promise it won't take you long. And you'll realize the gift that you have. And they're in every community. I found 3 of them within a 20-minute ride of my home that no one knew about. They're out there everywhere.
Right. Well, let's get to some nuts and bolts about this party so that the familiarity is easy to understand. Indicate basically your responsibilities as the Eastern Regional Chair position and outline the relevant structure immediately to those who are your peers and those who are immediately above you and below you, so that we have a sense of how this party is put together.
Okay, and it has its typical group structure that you would expect at the national level: chair, vice chair, second, all the usual officers. As regional, there's a number of us that are responsible for each region of the country. I'm the Eastern region, so I have the states between West Virginia and Maine. And in those states that are not affiliated yet, that we're in the process of organizing, I'm to facilitate and help that. I collect the contacts as they come in from those states. When I can, I go into those states and attend events and try to build my mailing list and get that core group of people ready to jumpstart their state. With the states that are affiliated, I'm really just a liaison between the state and national. If I can help them in some way, I will. And another one of the things that's most appealing here is the states are not micromanaged. I just absolutely love that about this party, is that you have your own state's bylaws. Obviously, it has to mesh and harmonize with the platform. You can't deviate from what our values are, so we're underpinned by that. But your state bylaws, how you do business and grow your party in your state, every state is different. And that's what I love about this, is it's left up to the people in the state. You should not expect, if say in Connecticut, people come into the party and want to know what to expect. Don't expect micromanagement from on high. Expect me to be there to help and facilitate whatever resources I can bring. Share both the positive and the negative experiences that I've seen throughout the region. I mean, we don't want to duplicate the mistakes, and we do want to duplicate our successes. So I share that information, having a bird's eye view of the other states in the region, what's worked and what hasn't. So yeah, I think it's incumbent, like in your state, for example, the Constitution state, you've got some rebuilding to do. There is no county sheriff in the state of Connecticut. In Massachusetts, where I hail from, our county government has been eviscerated. There's a couple of counties that technically exist on paper out in Boston and South Shore, but this is an important constitutional layer of government. And when they eviscerated county government, what came in its place? It was regional planning commissions, these things that I call the new Soviet. These people are not elected. They never took an oath or pledged anything to you or your constitution. And boy, howdy, does it show in their land use policies. So yeah, in Connecticut, I think your group is going to have to sit down, surveil what your the constitutional integrity and the constitutional threats to your state is, and plan accordingly.
Okay, then could we say, would I be correct in stating it, that what we have to do in forming this party, what needs to be done, is that everybody buys into the mission statement, which I think is very good. So when we give the website later to go to, mission statement's very clear, but the strategy and tactics, depending on the state, will be done according to that. So as you said, no micromanaging from the top. Help, support, suggestions if they're asked, but the mission statement must be bought into, and then strategy and tactics, how to meet that, are based on the state itself. Would that be correct?
Yeah. And I think when people go and actually read the platform and see what values they represent, I mean, I've never had anyone come up to me and say, wow, that's a load of baloney. They usually come up and say, I really like that. That's solid. I literally have never gotten a complaint about it. So when you have someone who really actually loves their platform, and you become the party apparatus, you become the establishment for the Constitution Party in your state, and you now got a party that loves its platform. Unlike like here in Massachusetts, half of the state committee cannot stand conservatism. The GOP is a miserable failure because of that. They don't even like their own platform, as milquetoast as it is. So the people that get involved with us typically got that fire burning inside them and love their platform, and therefore will work so hard for it and do great things too. I've just seen in brainstorming sessions, when you get a good, close, creative group of people in on a meeting, it's just amazing what will happen in a short period of time.
Well, I think that's very important because people have become, so many people are moving out of the respective two major parties, Republican and Democrat, and moving to unaffiliated because they can't stand the political venue that is there, and they're disenchanted. But I did read the mission statement, and I can see that it's very straightforward. And the mission statement essentially says is to take the money and to take the, well, let's call it dictatorship by the government, and they want to take it away from them and put it back in the hands of the people, the ones who are paying their taxes, the ones who need to make sure that they are caring for their family, regarding their mental health, their physical health, and the future for the grandchildren. I mean, grandparents are getting involved in this because they can see that there's a turning wave. So how many states actually do you have that are on the ballot now?
Oh boy, I'd have to go back, pull the map up and have a look. They're speckled all over the place. And what I'm finding too is some of the places right here in the East, New Jersey, I'm working within now, the requirement there is surprisingly reasonable. Up here in Massachusetts, that they do not want third parties in the mix. And I don't know why. We got 56, 57% of all registered voters are unenrolled. So yeah, I think up here, the bulk, the majority of the voters have already decided that the other two parties are not representing them. So the environment is ripe for people to say, okay, yeah, I've had enough. And I did another interview down in Connecticut not long ago with actually someone who you set me up with. And, he thought what so many people did is that the Constitution Party is probably only appealing to the GOP side of things, which was a misconception that I had too. As it turns out, there is a reasonable number of classic liberals, those old-fashioned Democrats, like the kind that my grandmother and my mother was. All right. They were small government. They loved their families. They really didn't, they're not the progressives of today. Progressives are not Democrats. So I give a little wiggle room for them. But those constitutional, small government, classic liberals are coming to the Constitution Party because it simply ain't in their DNA to ever vote for a Republican. And vice versa. That happens both ways. People that are lifelong Democrats or lifelong Republicans just don't have it in them to vote for that other dipolar side, but they are willing to do a protest vote for the Constitution Party and begin a new party, a new home, a new political home.
Well, I think the national scene too is contributing to the disenchantment. Obviously, it's a very divided country when it comes to the potential candidates running for president for 2024. So I do think that people are looking for clarity. And most of all, they are, as we said, a smaller government, one that is in the hands of the people, following the Constitution as it was originally written. And it is most important that people go, and we're going to give this website, give it a chance, folks. Take a look at it. I think you will find that it will answer a lot of your questions and certainly follow along, because you do have, and you are doing your media, and you have meetings where people can discuss, hear what you have to say on an update about the party and so forth. So that's very important. Now you're working in social media, correct? You're working, being interviewed, such as we're doing on our show today, Connecticut Valley Views. What do you see as the next best thing or next step for the party beyond that? Is it, what I think day-to-day conversations, yes? Day-to-day conversations with people, your friends, your business colleagues, other families in the neighborhood. Is that what you see, sort of feet on the ground, knocking on the door? Is that what you see next?
Well, I think we have always got to be out there and leading by example, and to sit in silence, because this is a part and parcel to why we're in the position that we're in, is that silence is consent. When we don't speak up, when we don't have those little water cooler discussions with the people that we work with, that we bump into at the store with our mechanic or whatever, we're failing to do our civic duty of taking the issues of the day and making them issues, discussing this with our peers out there, and finding real solutions. To merely complain and commiserate, and that's where we've fallen short. We kind of come together and we say, oh yeah, they're really talking it to us pretty good. Oh yeah, that's the bad guy over there. But we never get to the point where we get over the hump and develop a plan that is a solution. So we got to be solutions based. The despotism does not just exist in DC. This is trickled right down into your town. So as we may have our eye on grander prizes and issues to take issue with, so much is done. All of politics is local. There's a lot of truth to that. We were talking, I think we were probably alluding to the same crisis here with the border invasion. All right, this was created at the most upper levels, but it is impacting each and every one of us, and there are solutions at the local level.
Well, David, it's really been a pleasure having you on today, and I hope we've sparked some interest in people to start to believe that they can take control. Because many people, they think about the automated planes and you can put it on autopilot, and the cars, we have the EV cars and so forth. But I think people are more interested in being able to structure their lives and have a handle on what they can do best, not only for their families, but for the country going forward. So if you could give the contact information, website, whatever you would like to do, so that people can follow the Constitution Party and the progress it's making.
Well, first, I want to thank you very much for reaching out and inviting me on your show. It was an absolute pleasure. I had a great discussion here with you today, and
Great.
Thank you for that. But the best way to get in touch with me and get on the mailing list, easternregion.constitutionparty.com. And the email address directly to me is easternchair@constitutionparty.com. And for those of you outside of the region here, if you're from another state and listening, just go to constitutionparty.com, look up your state leadership, and get involved.
Well, thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure. And be sure to see all of our shows on ConnecticutCTValleynews.com. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.